Hi everyone, greetings from Singapore. My name is George. Thank you Corelight and Sense for having me here today to share about my submission to the What the Heck Is That contest that was held a couple of months back. Let me start off by sharing my home network setup. My intention was to have visibility on my home's network traffic, so I ordered myself a LAN tab and a Raspberry Pi, or Raspi for short, which I then loaded on with free tools for IDS, NetFlow, DNS Sinkhole, a log forwarder, and a rate limiter. That gave me sufficient visibility on what I was interested to see, which are primarily the flows, malicious traffic detection, as well as a means to block that detected traffic. Recently, I also set up a second tab just for experimental sake so I can compare the different tools and decide which better suits my needs. This is still something I am working on. Let me also touch on the hardware required for my setup. So I chose the Throwing Star LAN tab because it was cost effective. It was shipped to my address for under $10 all in all. Of course, a Raspi itself, 3 additional LAN cables, and because there is only one Ethernet port to the Raspi, we need another USB to Ethernet adapter. The diagram on the right just shows how I connected them. So J3 and J4 are F0 and F1 interfaces respectively, representing both directions of traffic flow. With that hardware set up in place and the mentioned tools such as IDS, Flow Collector, Sinkhole configured, I created a bunch of detection rules on Splunk which alerts me by email and for visuals this particular monitoring dashboard. The panels each represent something that I'm interested to monitor. For instance, top destination ports for the stipulated time frame, IDS detection categories, suspicious outbound calls, as well as unauthorized scanning traffic. In the track map below, you will also see inbound traffic that is denoted in green, IDS detections in pink, and in red if it's critical. This is the live view from my Splunk instance directly that is hosted on my local host. Might be clearer. So where I'd like to point your attention to is the panel that is outlined in red, where I wanted to monitor suspicious traffic via DNS logs. Let me expound on that. So I noticed weird looking domains that are non-existent. So I created a DJ alert as shown in this screenshot on the left to notify me whenever such traffic triggers. It was quickly identified to be from my smartphone whenever I connected it to my home network. As it was a managed mobile device, I worked with the relevant MDM team to narrow down on the type of operating system to understand the scope. And subsequently, we isolated traffic from various applications on my phone to drill down on the source of this weird traffic. It was then identified to be from an antivirus client, which was ironic. I brought this up with the AV company, and we spent quite a bit of time looking into this before tracking it down to an implementation of a particular VPN feature by that smartphone company. So I reached out to that smartphone company on this, and they are currently still looking into this, so I won't be providing too much details on it. In any case, it's not too detrimental, it's just interesting to find out. So that's where we are right now on this piece of finding. Other than that, perhaps it might also be interesting to take a look at the other IDS detection numbers. On the right, it shows the IDS detection numbers within a 2 months period, which is in the order of millions. And that's only based on the default community rules. In this case, I was using Snort. Separately, I also saw multiple buffer overflow attempts towards my router. And even though I verified that my firmware version wasn't vulnerable to the exploit, and it was also hardened, I realized that I was a patch behind the latest firmware version. So this was a timely reminder for me to patch my router as well. Another thing worth sharing is a Splunk rule that I wrote for heavy hitters of unauthorized inbound scanning traffic with certain thresholds and dynamically feeding that IP list of offenders to my DNS sinkhole, in this case the Pi-hole. This is a best effort basis because there is still some amounts of latency. I also configured fail to ban for rate-based protection for some of my IoT devices, especially on their login pages. So that sums up my sharing. Once again, thank you, Corelight, and also Garland for the field tab that was given to me for this contest, which I'll definitely put to good use. I will now hand the time back.